Hello and welcome to this edition of Takeaway Tuesday. My name is Andrew Chamberlain. I am a child forensic interview specialist and a trainer here at the National Children's Advocacy Center. And I'm really excited to talk to you today about the use of interview instructions in the forensic interview. Children from a very young age are socialized to give adults a response when we ask a question. And it doesn't mean that they know the answer or that they even understand the question, but because of that socialization, they give us a response. And we also know that children of different ages will do better than others, dependent on the guideline. We also know, because of the research, that even if children do well with one of the guidelines, one of the research instructions, they may not be able to utilize another interview instruction or a guideline. We also know when we're talking with young children that if we ask a question twice, they may change their answer because they're assuming that their first answer was incorrect. We also know as interviewers that children do not understand the value of saying, "I don't know." And it's because of these reasons we have to constantly look at how we're administering the guidelines in the interview, what this means for children of different ages. Unfortunately, when we go through training, we often will give you, the trainee, a set of more so a script, I guess is what you would say, of how to administer the guidelines. Unfortunately, what we know is that if I have a 6-year-old versus a 15-year-old, I need to administer those guidelines somewhat differently. I need to take into account the developmental age of the child, and I also need to pay attention to how often I practice. Current research is saying that for a lot of these children, that one practice opportunity we give is not sufficient. If you look at learning theory for children, it says that when they're learning something new, they need multiple incidences of practice in order to really take that in and to understand it and to utilize it. So for you and I, again, when we offer a guideline and interview instruction, we let them practice once, that may not be enough. Maybe we need to offer a second practice. For some children, we may need to offer a third practice, and this is something that you as the interviewer will have to make the determination. When we look at the literature, a child's ability to understand one of the interview instructions or guideline does not mean that they will understand all of the guidelines we give. So if you think about some of the more, prominent guidelines that we administer are: if you don't know, say that you don't know. If you don't understand, tell me that you don't understand. Correct me if I say something or I repeat something that you've said and I get it wrong. And then we also have truth and lie. Those are the 4 interview instructions that tend to be utilized the most in the United States. There's some others, but these are the ones that have really received the most looking at in the research. But even if a child understands one of the instructions, does not mean that they will understand all of the instructions. And let's say that we offer the instructions and we practice those instructions or guidelines with the children still may be challenged to utilize those guidelines during the interview. One of the things that you and I are going to have to do is constantly being, checking in. Well, remember if I said, if you don't know, just tell me that you don't know. Or, well, let me see if I can ask that question in a better way. If we see a look of puzzlement or kind of, I'm really not sure what you meant. If we see this particular look on a child's face, that should tell us, I need to reword that, or I need to revisit that with the child and give them another opportunity. One of the suggestions in the literature about interview instructions, and I think it's really powerful, is that when we do practice the guidelines with children, we should make the practice element pertinent to something the child has already shared. So an example I would like to give you, if you're interviewing a child and in rapport, the child is talking to you about their dog, and their dog is a bulldog who is named George, and maybe they told you that George was brown and white. So if I'm going through the instructions and I might say, well, earlier you were telling me about your dog, George, and you said that George is black. And what I'm hoping in that moment is the child will say no. And we want that child to correct. I want that child to correct me and say, no, I said that George is brown and white. And so then I might say, well, what species, genus or species is George? And I'm hoping they probably won't understand. And what I want is a scientific name. And if they say, I don't get your question, then you could say, well, is George a dog? Yeah. And so again, thinking about when you utilize the instructions with the children, if you can base the questions that you ask as far as the different guidelines, utilize something the child has given you in rapport, because research is clear that if we make it pertinent to what the child has already told us, make it pertinent to the type of information we're going to be gathering later if that child should make a disclosure, the children are able then to, one, understand the guidelines better. They're also able to utilize the guidelines later in the forensic interview. If you'd like more information, please check out calio.org. Also look at the NCAC Virtual Training Center for different webinars and seminars that have been recorded with experts in the field. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, please email me at the link below. Thanks and have a great day.